There has been a clear appreciation in what we bring to the table. There has been a clear appreciation that we have not tried to fundamentally change those companies, right? Because this is not consumer electronics where you have a phone and you can change it every 2 years. Here, failing in a demo is bad enough, but failing in operational warfare could mean life and death.
Yeah. So welcome Rohan to Open Tab by Gemba Capital. This is like a series of video podcasts which we are doing with our founders, understanding their markets, their businesses, their challenges. So welcome to the show.
Thanks.
And for the audience, the context is Sunlight is a company which is into aerospace and defense, started by Rohan, Abhijit, and Rahul. We were one of the early investors in this company, and hopefully this will be a very interesting conversation about the market and what the company is doing. So to begin with, Rohan, tell us more about, like in simple terms, what are your products? There are multiple subsidiaries. What do each one of them do? Just broadly, who are the clients? Just for the audience to get a context in terms of what your business is.
So we're a 3-year-old company, Adith, and a group of 3 companies, Sanlayan Technologies, and our 2 subsidiaries, Versabyte Data Systems and Dexcel Electronics. We are a pure defense-focused company, focused on manufacturing and designing indigenous solutions and capabilities for the Indian Armed Forces.
Got it. So just give us an example of, let's say, one of your products. Where does it fit into that as a component on the subsystem, or then eventually which platform, and then how does an operator using your product or working on it sees it? Just give us an example of the entire thing that will help the audience as well.
So across the 3 companies, we have RF, which is done in Sunlight. We have power electronics done by Versabyte, and we have avionics and digital electronics that is done by Dexcel Electronics. All of these have their own unique products, but I'll just talk about a couple of the products that our subsidiaries have been doing for a while. So for example, we do the power modules that power all the electronics on board, let's say an aircraft or tank or a radar or something as simple as a communication device. Similarly, on the Dexcel side, what we do are things like control and command systems, communication systems, which actually, let's say, take data from different areas of the aircraft and put it up on a display, for example. And similarly, in Sunland, some of the products that we are building would actually be large systems like radars and electronic warfare products, things that would either allow detection, classification, or mitigation of enemy threats.
Got it. Got it. One very interesting thing I observed was, when I was working in a private equity fund, with 2014, 15 around, any deal which used to come to us from defense, it was just a strict no-no. 100% government is a buyer, large working capital cycles, policy changes, and all those things. And suddenly, what has happened over the last 5-6 years, that defense per se has become the darling, right, of either private investors or even public market investors, right? So what has changed so much?
I think it's a multi-vector thing that has actually led to the kind of transformation we are seeing. I think few things to think about is globally, and this started, as early as COVID. Supply chains want to become more resilient and not interconnected, because at the switch of a button, you could lose a lot of your capabilities. From an India context, you're seeing that the threats on both of our borders continue to remain, and become stronger as we go round. And now that we are sitting here after 1 year after Operation Sindoor, we've seen what not being prepared can actually lead to. And finally, you know, globally also you're seeing that wars are erupting everywhere. It's not something like the pre-2000 eras where we were living in kind of a peacetime environment after World War II and the Cold War. I think there are a lot of regional conflicts which, because of the military power that has been built up over so many years, can actually escalate at any time. And so the ability to defend your own country becomes very, very important. And that's how I think policy, global macros are all shaping up towards creating an environment where people feel very, very bullish about this space. And in terms of operators like us and companies that have always been around, they see real intent from government. They see real intent from the armed forces to one, have our own capabilities, but to even move away from the imported capabilities that we were importer for the last, let's say, 60, 70 years of our independence. So I think these are the two, three large factors that are playing out in terms of the complete re-rating and reindustrialization of every country on earth.
Yeah, correct. But if you look at the public markets, it's little interesting that the median P multiples are at, like, 55, 60, 65, trailing 12 months, and this, and which is like much higher than the US defense companies which are listed there, right? They would, the median multiples would be 30, 35, and they are like tech disruptors here, and more, here we are doing more of, let's say, a contract kind of manufacturing. So why is this? Is it just the high growth phase which we are experiencing, the high order books, or is there again something more to it?
No, I think,
will it stabilize eventually?
see, fundamentally, two things have changed, right? See, we were a net importer, and which meant that all the Indian military complex got to do repairs, got to do MRO, got to do a lot of the low value add stuff,
Yeah.
like you mentioned, contract manufacturing. But what has changed since DAP 2020 is that a lot of the focus has now shifted towards building capability in India, which means that a lot of the high IP work, a lot of the low value add stuff is out, and it is getting replaced by very, very high IP, uh, high value add stuff coming into the Indian kitty, which means that you're going from doing MRO to actually designing systems of our own, designing weapons of our own, designing deterrence of our own, designing counter deterrence of our own. And so this structural, fix is not something that goes away very quickly, because we're just about the entrance of the super cycle, if I may call it, because it's not every day that you're able to create, high technology products. Now, comparing it to the US market, probably there's two things, right? They're a very evolved economy with a very high, market cap when it comes to aerospace and defense, and they've been a global supplier for the last so many decades. I think today the Indian markets are probably saying that our defense exports could also start mirroring what has happened in the US. We have already seen, our defense exports go up to north of 20,000 crores last year, and it was less than 5,000 crores, just less than 5 years ago. And secondly, while we look at PEs, I think what we need to also look at is the PEG ratio, right? We are also talking about very high growth, because the combined market cap of the Indian private defense complex is actually very, very minimal when you compare it to the likes of, let's say, a US prime, or even Indian prime like BHLs and BELs of the world. So I think there's huge headroom. Policy is strongly backing the smaller players, private players, to actually make inroads into a sector that's booming and that's also very large right now. Now, as you see order book swelling, I think it gives a lot of companies the confidence to actually go into an infrastructure cycle, to actually build up those capacities, to build up the capabilities that are required to support the kind of order books that are there. So I think, like I said, we're at the start of the cycle. What we'll see as we kind of mature into the cycle will be that the capacities, the capabilities will kind of catch up with the order books, and we should get to healthier execution velocities, healthier ratio, if at all there's a healthy ratio of order book to kind of revenue of the companies.
Correct. Yeah. And I believe you guys yourself are sitting maybe on an order book of more than 950 crores, right? And what is realistically the timelines you kind of look at And if you can give us a breakdown in terms of how will you execute this, right?
Yeah, so I wish we had a 950 crore order book, but I think so. We have a large order book and a pipeline.
Sorry. So pipeline plus order book.
Yeah, so I think the way to think about it again, pipeline, right? See, defense is not something where you kind of go in and sell something today and then don't think about it tomorrow, right? There are very long strategic programs that the government thinks about, the Triforces think about in terms of what are the capabilities they want to acquire, right? And these capabilities then go through the different stages like development, qualification, certification, prototyping, mass production, and then MRO, which means that you need to think about what are those different programs that you're already part of, and some of it which might be in development or it might be in proto or it might be in production would be part of the order book today, which means confirmed POs, right? And you're kind of executing that order book at whatever velocity. Beyond the order book, you have a pipeline where you may have developed something and it's undergoing trials, which means you don't have a mass production order. But because you're the one who developed it, and there are different models in the DAP, things like Make 1, Make 2, DCPP. And so in some of these models, what will happen is that when the production comes around, when the mass requirement comes around, you will be one of those vendors who will be supporting the mass production, and which means that you may either get a multi-year order book, or you might get certain number of units to manufacture every single year. And the second part is about the program pipeline, where the program should have received what is called the acceptance of necessity. It should have received a CCS sanction, and then depending on where it is, you can put different levels of probability, you can put different levels of timelines against the pipeline, and that's how you come up with saying that the order book plus pipeline looks like a few hundred or a few thousand crores depending on the size and scale of the company.
Got it. Yeah, because I think there is this value of debt between actually the successful trial and commercial contract, right?
Yeah.
And that's how then you kind of manage it, right? With multiple programs running, multiple things, few in order book, few in pipeline, right?
Yeah.
But is there any way to kind of any insight that how to best manage this part and this gestation period?
See, I think it has to be multiple things. We're a well diversified group with a huge number of products that go into different programs, and which means that our engineers are always working on something which is new product introduction. Our engineers are always working on prototypes. Our production teams are always working on production, right? And so this lends the inherent diversity required for us to kind of sustain the cash flows that are required to kind of keep going from NPI to proto to mass manufacturing. I think this is also where public and private capital have come in very strongly, where you see a great number of companies that have been able to survive that valley of death through a bunch of the government initiatives like IDEX, TDF, etc., where there are grants that are provided by the government. You also see a lot of private capital now coming into aerospace and defense to kind of be able to bridge those early years of development, create a bridge and runway so that companies can actually realize the potential of their products and hopefully take them to mass manufacturing.
Correct. Yeah. Yeah, I think IDEX and PDF has been like great initiatives by the government, right? And I think you also are running one of the TDF projects. Kind of just tell us more about it. How was the experience and where it is right now?
So I think these are some amazing problem statements that are set out by either the DRDO or the Triforces. We recently completed a TDF through our subsidiary Versabyte, where we handed over a high voltage power supply for EW pods that go onto aircrafts, and we handed this over to the Indian Air Force. I think what's unique about IDEX and TDF is that while these are gateways for younger companies and startups to actually show capability, as we see new capabilities requiring acquisition by the forces, as we see more private participation, we'll see that some of these gateways then become much larger and become very relevant to acquisition as we kind of keep moving along the time.
Got it. But like with any other company, whether it's defense or anything else, you would always have some make or buy decisions. Like a few things you would want to just buy it if there's someone else who's making it the best. But there would be some non-negotiables at Sunlion as well. That this is where I draw the line. These are the products, or this is the capabilities we want to make it in-house, and we don't want to go for a buy decision. So, what are those, and how are you thinking about that part?
Look, I think make, buy, partner. These are all decisions that keep coming up when our engineering teams and product teams are discussing roadmaps, charters with us. The way we founders think about it is that if it's anything that's a core capability that will compound over time, that differentiates the company, our products, it's something that we would like to insource and do ourselves. If it's something which is available off the shelf, does not compound, might be a one-off, might be a revenue opportunity, but not a moat or capability building opportunity. I think those decisions become easier where we're okay to kind of buy and look at alternatives where our internal bandwidth is not being utilized. And then there are things which might be sovereign in nature, algorithms, real world data, where you have to go and partner with DPSUs, you have to go and partner with DRDOs, you have to go and partner with institutions which typically will not allow those kind of sovereign assets to go into public or private hands. So I think these are decisions that both are taken at a company level, but also need to be thought about from a industry framework in the industry that we're sitting in.
Got it. Got it. And as you look forward, right, for Sunlion, one is you can become a subsystem kind of supplier to prime level contractors, right? Or the other path you could take is also kind of competing with them and becoming a prime level kind of platform level contractor, right? So at what point you will start making these choices, and what is the overall 3, 4, 5 years vision in terms of how do you see Sunlion as?
I think I'll start with what's immediate, right? I think the opportunity in front of us is one massive, and it's evolving very rapidly. It's the surface area of what companies can do today is becoming very very different and expanding constantly as we speak. Some of the things that we're looking at, private companies now being offered to build the entire fifth generation aircraft, drone startups popping up everywhere, drones changing the complete battlefield dynamics, as we have seen in the last 2 or 3 years. I think some of these decisions are better left taken probably a few years later. Today, how we see it, and the long-term vision is, of course, that we want to be a capability platform, right? Sometimes those capabilities would be subsystems that plug into the capabilities of some of the larger system integrators. Sometimes those capabilities would mean that we have to take our entire systems and provide them as solutions to the end user, the Triforces, or to the DRDO. So I think we need to look at it as a tiered supply chain that also has interlinkages. Sometimes we want to compete, sometimes we want to collaborate, sometimes we might partner. So I think the landscape is still evolving. There's no hard and fast reason to do A versus B today, just because of the kind of opportunities that we are seeing. But like I said, long term, what is very clear is we want to have end-to-end capabilities. We want to be as vertically integrated as any OEM can be in terms of technology. And let's see where that path takes us.
So, since you mentioned drones, actually, that is one area where startups have got some success, right? So, drone or anti-drone, systems, so counter-drone systems. So, is there a template, or is it like a unique case, or is it something which other startup founders can replicate in other areas like propulsion or somewhere else or something like that?
No, I think this is a very unique case, right? Again, if you look at the global landscape of how a battlefield has evolved over the last 3 years specifically, I think nobody was talking about drones, and now everyone is talking about drones. It has fundamentally rewritten the economics of war, and so I don't think there are one-to-one parallels where some startups who were able to solve drones, and I'm just saying that because of the sheer number of companies and startups that have come up just in India, right? The drone ecosystem is really buzzing. It started as a consumer technology, which has now made its way into military applications.
Correct.
And it's a long kind of continuum where people are operating, right? You have drones built for completely civilian applications, and drones that are like large hail mail class drones, which are almost autonomous planes.
Correct.
And so there are startups across, but I think when you talk about more fundamentally difficult challenges like propulsion, or you're talking about RF, the domain that we are in, radars. I think the bring up is not that easy. The kind of talent and experience that is required to actually build out products is not at the same level of complexity. It's much higher, and so it means that there would still be a lot of crossovers happening, a lot of industrial consumer technologies coming across. You're seeing a lot of dual use technologies coming up when it comes to space, when it comes to drones, when it comes to defense. But I don't think the movement or the transformation is going to be as quick and sudden as it has been in drones.
Got it.
But for sure, as more minds get to it, as these spaces become more opened up by governments to private innovation, you'll see that the general pace of innovation actually picks up, where you have a lot of academicians, you have a lot of hobbyists, you have a lot of ex-veterans, you have a lot of new companies coming in with new ideas, and some of them becoming products. So I think that's something that will surely happen as we go along.
Got it. Got it. So right now, what are the unaddressed kind of white spaces in the aerospace and defense sector, according to you, which startups have not yet kind of got into? It could be like avionics or UCS or anywhere, right? Like, what are those few areas you see, because you're in the system, right?
Yeah, in fact, I'll talk from our perspective, right? And I think that's global, or a India challenge at a global level, where still a lot of the components that go into building these products are imported. We're talking about semiconductor actives and passives. We're talking about different kinds of alloys. We're talking about different kind of materials. We're talking about things like connectors. I think this ecosystem is still something that's largely untapped. A lot of work on semiconductors, active passives, is happening through the semiconductor mission, and the kind of work that's happening at the broader level in the country, supported by the government. But I think a large opportunity space is the components ecosystem that has not yet come up. And something similar happened in electronics, right? Where we first went from low value add, EMS, to then going to full assemblies, to then going to design, to then finally going to the kind of scale that is required for component manufacturing. So I think that's really a huge area, but I'm not sure if young startups will be the ones to solve that. I think it needs a more evolved ecosystem. Some of it would be startups, some of it would be larger companies that go into that, because the kind of investments required when it comes to component manufacturing are always large, and the returns are always something that come in after multiple years. So I think that's a big white space for people to think about.
Got it. Got it. No, Subha, thank you so much. I think this is very interesting, and thank you for your time. All the best with Sanlayan.
Thank you, Adith. Thanks a lot.